Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 of MID Declassified, the show here on PLD Projects where we break down the most consistent movie franchise in history. Yes, I said it. More than Star Wars, more than DC, more than Marvel. This is the most consistent movie franchise of all time, Mission Impossible. And we're here talking Mission Impossible 3 in the lead up to Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning on July 14th. I'm here joined, of course, by the Benji to my Ethan, PLD. PLD, I would ask you how you're doing, but we know how you're doing.
You do. You know how I'm doing?
You're doing great. You're loving life. You're always loving life.
Always loving life.
We have a very, very special, I hate the word guest. I refuse to use the word guest. We have a very special seasonal co-host with us.
There you go. Seasonal co-host. I like that.
I hate using the word guest because it implies that, they have to be invited on, that it would take us to reach out. You've always got a place here. We're joined by a friend, Kearnsy, Matty Kearns. What's going on, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. Paul just left the back door open and I kicked it in, I guess.
Yeah. That's what happens when you're old school like we are. You just leave those. You know where the hidden keys are. You know where the tricks are. You know where.
I know what the passcode is.
Exactly.
That obscure reference to like episode 3 of Action Movie Anatomy.
There you go. That's what it is. Old school Action Army represents. We are in the house. And what a great episode for you to be on. A great Action Army moment here. I mean, we are not talking about the Ben Bateman secret video count to 10. We're actually talking about the original count to 10.
That's a reference that absolutely no one can find out what it's in reference to. If you were there for that special moment, we all remember it.
Do either of you have it still?
No, I don't, unfortunately.
No one's ever seen it. No, I have actually never even seen it. I've only heard
you did.
I was watching the stream. I was there.
The actual video.
I thought you were talking about their fabled watch along.
No. I'm talking about the fabled Ben Bateman got really drunk off his ass and wanted to watch Mission Impossible 3, and they kept asking him why. And he was like, count to 10.
Okay, that I have not seen. I thought you were talking about the other time they got drunk and actually watched Mission Impossible 3.
There's no one after that one as well. A lot of good action movie anatomy talk. Obviously, I consider ourselves children of the action movie anatomy of Ben Bateman and Andrew Guy, action industry, so to speak.
We do like to break things down into categories. But to cover all bases, PLD, how are you?
I am doing very well, my friend. I'm excited. Just got off a long stream. Just recorded 2 Mediocre White Dudes on Film with PJ Campbell. Just did our episode on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which is out now. By the time you're seeing this, has been out since for a couple of days now. So that was a lot of fun we had. But I got to watch this film yesterday as well, Mission Impossible 3. And point blank, it just reinforced what I already believe. Spoiler alert, I don't care. My favorite film in the franchise by far.
Mine as well.
I think this is the greatest one we have. I feel like we have this moment where Mission Impossible started with the first episode was a very quaint spy thriller. 2 was John Woo action. Also, I didn't really know what it wanted to be, still kind of figuring it out. 4, 5, and 6 is about the ever rising stunt factor, about what can Tom Cruise do and get away with while still being insured.
And it has a more cohesive plot line throughout.
This is that one that's in the middle where I actually feel is, in a way, peak Mission Impossible, because there's no distraction. I feel like 4, 5, and 6 has a little bit of the distraction factor about what's Tom Cruise going to do next.
Yeah.
What's the thing that way? This is an actual self-contained, perfectly crafted action.
Because the first movie is straight up, it's an adaptation of the series.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch the show, it's very similar in this sort of way, the masks and all the stuff they do, even down to the villain being the previous hero of the other 2 shows.
Right.
2, like you said, it was essentially just they wanted to try to move away from that. And they're like, John Woo, you made a lot of good action movies in the 90s. Why don't you just do one of those? And Tom
Woo it up, baby. Woo it up.
Kind of out of his mind at that point. Nicole Kidman had left him, and he had met Katie Holmes, so he was just kind of in that like, hey, this is, I think, the first time that Mission Impossible really makes its own identity as a movie series.
I'll go with that. I mean, this is not. I know Matt. I can see Matty's eyes a little bit because he loves Mission Impossible 2. We spent all last episode defending Mission Impossible 2.
I love it too as a crazy over the top action movie.
Yes,
absolutely, and I agree with you as well.
You see it for what it is,
right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Anthony Hopkins, I don't know what he's doing there. But...
he's being Anthony Hopkins. That's just what he does. All he has to do is just show up. That's all he needs to do. Just show up. But I have, speaking of action movie anatomy, I have a thesis statement about this movie. I want to put to you two.
Go ahead.
I would put PSH as Owen Davian up against any Bond villain from any era, and I think he's better.
Oh, I might break some hearts. I'm not a huge Bond guy myself, so that's not to me. That's not that.
Take my British citizenship. I'm not a big Bond guy.
I am a big Bond guy, so there's a couple to where I'm like, he's good, but I don't think he beat Sean Bean from GoldenEye.
Oh, I do. I think hands down he beat Sean Bean from GoldenEye. I think GoldenEye is an overrated movie, to be honest with you.
That's my favorite Bond movie, so I have to listen to you, Paul.
The game's better.
I literally, me and Manning on Take 3, we last year we reviewed every Bond movie. We went actor by actor, and when we did GoldenEye, even though I didn't grow up with the game, I literally had to start and say, let's just talk about the game, because if we don't talk about this game, all the comments are going to be, why didn't you talk about the game from M64?
It's not wrong.
He is great though, and we'll get into that. But.
Yeah, going back to PSH, actually, I'll point blank. I'll call you out even further, man. I'll advance that thesis further a different way. I say you could put up every villain from Mission Impossible, every villain you have from 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6.
Just want
put them all together. Put them all together, and they still wouldn't reach the heights that Davian has.
That's just you digging at Jarvie, because Jarvie said that Henry Cavill's better than PSH, which I guess
it's because PSH never goes.
It's the arm cock. He's blinded by the arm cock. That's why Jarvie's fired. That's why he's not here anymore. I'm kidding. You know, Jarvie left out of a break. We love Jarvie.
It's like, wow, that went dark, Paul. It's come for a week.
Actually, I'll take that back. You throw Class Action now on hiatus, which is funny because Mr. Kearns down there was actually going to join us on Class Action. We just played him on. We're going to do Batman versus Batman Begins. We're all set. We're going to do Class Action together. And all of a sudden, a week later, Class Action.
I made Jarvie watch the original Mad Max, and he was like,
"You made me put Escape from New York. You made me put Escape from New York up against Mad Max." And
technically speaking, I wanted to put you up against Road Warrior, and Paul chose to go with Mad Max.
That would have been even worse, and we reward you by putting you on the best episode of this Mission Impossible podcast.
But to reference what we're talking about with Jarvie, real quick, I'll throw it out there. We did have Mission Impossible tournament in Class Action back when it was just me and Jarvie, and we put them all against each other. And if you watch Class Action, you know that I'm always scoring it. I have my little notepad down here. I score it to go through category by category. And we had Mission Impossible 3 versus Mission Impossible 6 as I think the finale, or I don't know if it was the finale. Either way, that was the battle. And one of the category was villains. And I'm going to tell you right now, I actually had already written down that we both were going to write Davian, because it was so crystal clear to me that no one ever could have chosen against PSH as Davian.
Your overconfidence is your weakness.
It absolutely wasn't. And Jarvie dropped that bomb on me, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. For the first time in my life, I was absolutely speechless. And then I got angry. But that's another story. But yes, that's what it is. Davian is a big reason why I love the Mission Impossible franchise, and this is why this is my favorite of the series. Yes, Matty, go ahead with your continuing your thesis and your summary from there, though. Go ahead, Matty.
No, that was it. That was just my general thesis. A little bit of icebreaker discussion between the three of us before we get going. So with that being said, let's get going. The first category. By the way, if this is your first time here on PLD Projects, do that thing, all the YouTubers say, smash the like button, hit subscribe. We're trying to make our way towards 500 subscribers. So please, or PLD will fire me as well as Jarvie. Okay. Okay, so our first segment is called Your Mission, which is where we just have a little chat about the movie in question, in this case, Mission Impossible 3. So we start this movie. Ethan has seemingly retired from IMF fieldwork. He now trains recruits. He's settled down with his fiance, his nurse Julia, who is unaware that she's marrying a secret agent, and I believe his guise in this one is he's like works for the Department of Traffic Control or something like that.
Yeah, traffic. Yeah.
Which I love that scene where he's just like in the party describing what he does. He's just like, I monitor traffic patterns, because traffic has a memory, and everyone's just like, weirdo.
In 10 seconds, you can tell the minute that they apply the brakes.
So J.J. Abrams' little pacifier there, Greg Grunberg, in every one of his movies, of course. And yes, Tom Cruise making that even sound intense. That's there's just always be the most intense. Everything is the most intense thing in his life, and even the 10 seconds about traffic, very intense stuff.
So he is then approached by IMF Assistant Director of Operations, John Musgrave, about a special mission to rescue one of his proteges, his star pupil, Lindsay Ferris, who was captured while investigating an arms dealer, the aforementioned PSH as Owen Davian. Musgrave's already prepared the team. We have Declan Gormley, Zen Lee, and of course, we have to bring back Old Faithful, the man in the chair, Luther Stickle. Where do you guys stand on Luther? Kearns, I'm going to ask you, where do you stand on Luther as a character?
Oh, you said Kearns. I'm sorry. So in the first movie, it's funny because obviously he's one of these agents who was sort of thrown out of IMF and everything. And you don't think, you're like, oh, he's not going to be brought back. And then he's brought back in the second one. You're like, oh, cool. What I like about this one is by this point, they really have sort of done the sort of the same thing the Bond movies does, which is, or Indiana Jones, which is like, there are adventures that happen that we don't see. I love that by this point in this movie, Ethan and Luther are like best friends. Like that moment when he's talking to Ethan about Lindsay and he's like, did you ever have sex with your sister? Come on, man. If I don't ask, nobody's gonna. And you really feel that. You're like, he's the only guy who can ask Ethan these questions. Yeah. I love Ving Rhames in these movies, all of them. He's great in this one. I love how when they're on the mission trying to save Lindsay, he's continually asking Ethan about his fiance and about like, you can't settle down, man, all this stuff. And Ethan's like, do we have to talk about this? He's like, well, I'm in Europe right now, so you're just gonna have to listen.
Yeah, he's like, great. observer. I don't know if I know you that well to have this conversation with you. Yep. PLD, what were your thoughts on seeing Luther come back?
I was happy to see Luther come back. Luther he's the only guy who's been in all 6 films except for Tom Cruise, obviously, as well. He just provides that that consistency that you need. You see the development of the relationship between them. And in this one, like you said, he's like his big brother in a way. My favorite comedic moment in the whole movie. Actually, when going over our segments, I forgot there wasn't a comedic moment segment. This is my favorite comedic moment when he sits there. He's trying to tell him not to marry Julia because he's like, don't marry her because she's going to ruin your life and you're going to ruin her life. And if you really love her, you'll let her go. Don't do it. And he goes, we got married 2 weeks ago. Congratulations! Without even missing a beat. Congratulations! Quick. It's just the way he goes. Ving Rhames really has the timing down for the character. And so again, he's just a good old standby. He didn't obviously Billy was gone. Declan's here now. I had to mention that. But like he was that consistency throughout. I love having him as the man in the chair.
Yeah, real great friend of Ethan not to invite his best friend to the wedding. You know, they got married 2 weeks ago. Luther didn't even get an invite.
Well, no one got an invite technically except for that one doctor.
That's right. You think that Luther's enough of a field agent that he could have acted a little bit and been like, yeah, I work with him at the Department for Traffic Control or wherever. But the team, they go to Berlin to rescue Lindsay, and they also are required to collect 2 damaged laptops. Now, as they escape, as all things happen in Mission Impossible, shit hits the fan. And as they're escaping, Ethan discovers an explosive bomb, like a little pellet thing, that's been implanted in Lindsay's head, which is foreshadowing to an event later on in the movie that we're going to get to. And before he can disable the bomb, it detonates inside her head, and it kills her.
Gruesome moment.
Right. Yeah. Her eye, like her one eye just going back in her head. I was like, oh.
And then when they open the body bag later and you're like, they pull the hair back, you're like,
ooh. It's so gruesomely done, and like it's such an easy special effect for them to do, but it actually is so effective for how we do it. Another J.J. Abrams there, Kerry Russell, another J.J. Abrams stand there as it is. I love that beginning sequence. What a great action sequence. I mean, we didn't actually even talk about the beginning sequence. I know we're going to talk about it later on anyway because it's repeated. I mean, quite frankly, it's so great dramatically that they said, no, we can't. We got to show this fucking thing twice, and we're going to actually open the movie with it to show you, get you right involved. I actually do want to mention it. We'll talk more in depth about it later on, but I do want to mention beginning with that was such a stroke of genius because after the John Woo ridiculousness, this set right back on. This is an emotionally staked movie with real personal emotions. Tom Cruise probably doing some of his best acting work in the entire franchise right off the bat. It makes you can't get away with that. How many other times you see in a movie where you actually see a scene twice, specifically because it's just so damn good that you got to see it twice.
The only time I can think is Goodfellas. Yeah, the opening scene is with the body in the back.
Yep, absolutely.
And then it freeze frames and it goes back to the beginning.
And this is even like I feel that's done more of as a narrative device, whereas this is like just like this really feels like it's like no, we're just going to take the best scene, put it here, and that's how you begin. So
because then you're waiting the whole time. You're like, well, we know the scene is going to come back. When is it going to come back? And then it's right near the end of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's also like you see he's there holding the gun to Julie, and then you see him at a party with her, and they're celebrating their marriage, and it's just like wait. And
that is the nice thing about that is the first time you see this movie, you have no idea who that is. You're like, why does he even really care so much? And then by the time the scene comes back, you're like, wait, no, this is Ethan's like happily ever after. Like we care now too, not just Ethan. And I like that. It was brilliant. I wonder if it was scripted like that, or if that was something they just said in editing. Maybe. If it was like scripted to like, we're going to start with this scene.
I kind of feel like it wasn't. It feels like it wasn't. Like Goodfellas, you mentioned, it feels like that was done that specifically. That's kind of what I meant.
Even though it wasn't.
Specifically, even though it wasn't. This one does not feel that way. This one felt like it was like the end of the movie. Like, we're just going to begin the movie with him and Julia. No, let's begin this movie with a bang. Like literally the best scene in the movie. Kind of like.
Because I don't even know if we get like a... Because normally with VMI movies, you get like the fuse going into the credits. This one, it was a lot shorter, so it felt like they needed something to start with a boom, like as you said, they start with a bang. Like how could they start it something new, something fresh? And I definitely think having PSH stone cold faced 8, 9.
Oh God!
10. Like he didn't even have to act that.
We'll get into it.
We get into
it. We'll get there. We gotta work up to that.
We gotta talk about Aaron Paul's random cameo.
Aaron Paul, seeing Aaron Paul in this movie, I was like, what the fuck is Jesse doing in Mission Impossible? I can't see Aaron Paul as any character other than Jesse. And it's so bad because he is such a great actor.
Yeah. But
every time I see him now, I'm like, that's Jesse.
Luckily, I had 2 seasons of Westworld with him, so I kind of finally was able to break that mold for me a little bit because I watched Westworld enough. So, but I get it. It's kind of freaky to see him in that fashion at that point.
So to this point, we meet the character the PLD wishes was Ed Harris.
That's every character, but yeah.
Ethan Hunt.
Don't get him started.
Ed Harris can run better than Tom Cruise.
Michelle
you shut your mouth.
Ed Harris.
You shut your mouth right now that Ed Harris could run better than Tom Cruise.
Have you ever seen him do it? Have you ever seen him do it? I think so.
There's a reason.
Neither have I, so I don't know. I can't really say.
There's a reason he stayed on the aircraft carrier during Top Gun, and Tom Cruise flew the plane. Okay.
Because he's smart. Absolutely, I get it.
Regardless, we meet IMF director Theodore Brassel, played by Lawrence Fishburne, who is there to reprimand Ethan once again for saving the world, just like Sir Anthony Hopkins did in the movie before. It seems like every time Ethan saves the world, he gets in shit for it.
Yep.
Ethan learns that Lindsay mailed him like this, what they call it, microdot on the postcard before she was captured, and they discover this little, it's like a magnetic dot underneath the stamp, and then this is where we meet Benji.
Yeah.
Simon Pegg as Benji comes in, the new man in the chair, which, there's got to be a bit of friction there. I mean, he's no Billy, but that's okay.
Much better than Billy.
Shut up.
Wait, who?
Anyway, the hard drive is completely toasted, as is the case in most of these movies where you have to recover a hard drive from a computer. Oh, no, they the data's too corrupted, or the hard drive is destroyed. We can only get so much off of it. He manages to get enough to tell us exactly where the villain is going to be, the exact location and the exact time. Somehow he manages to get all that information from a completely destroyed hard
With an
drive.
actual little hole in it. It's
Mission Impossible. We don't question it. And now the mission is to go to the Vatican, because of course it's the Vatican, to obtain a weapon called codenamed the Rabbit's Foot. What did you guys think of this code name?
I loved it. And personally, I love the fact that they never really describe what it is. We never really know what it is, and that's because it's not important. It's literally a MacGuffin. That's the only thing it's there. Is we don't care what it is. And, you know, it's something that's bad. Because there's actually even dialogue later on. I forgot who says it. I can't remember who says it, but it's like, well, I think it's Benji actually who says it. When they talk about something like this and it sells for this, I know it's like a world changer. And that's all you need to know about it. That's like a bad thing. Like naming it the Rabbit's Foot. I don't know. It's kind of fun. I got a fun, silly name for it. Why not?
Gunsy?
Yeah, it's clearly something bad, which is why it's funny that they call it the Rabbit's Foot, because obviously a rabbit's foot is supposed to be lucky, and this is clearly something unlucky. It has, like, I think a radioactive symbol on it, so maybe it's something nuclear. I kind of like that we never get to know, because it's not important in this movie. It's more just obtaining it is important, but what it does, we don't ever really need to know, and it leads to a funny exchange at the end of the movie between Lord Fishburne and Tom Cruise.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Then
I like that.
This is where we get a little delve into Ethan's rogue side, where he plans an unofficial mission off the grid. Brassel can't know about this mission to go and capture Davian. So he's going before Rogue Nation even happens. He's just taking it under himself. He's like, look, IMF be damned, Brassel be damned. I'm going to the Vatican, the most guarded city in the world, to find an arms dealer and bring it back here with a weapon that I have no idea what it looks like, what it is, what it can do. But damn it, I'm gonna go find it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What a great set piece, right? You get to go to the Vatican of all places, and that's your action set piece is where it starts there. With a great team. I love the fact that we get our team together. I actually like Declan. I think Declan's even better than Billy was.
Shut your mouth. You shut your mouth. I mean, you're not wrong, but you shut your mouth for your Billy slander.
I do love the fact to get that good team together, and it's a great fun sequence. I love the fact that we bring back the masks, because at this point it's kind of like it's absolutely ridiculous. It's stupidly ridiculous, but it's one of the things that's part of the franchise now, so you might as well have fun with it, right? And that was a great sequence too. Real quick, the idea of, like, they start replacing PSH, but the idea is Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt, going to replace PSH, and they have the thing where they try to upload the voice. And the guard comes in. He's like, "You got to stall him." You know, just holding him off. And he's it's such a great moment, because that's what they do. It's always about, like, the tension gets built, that you only have a certain amount of time, and you got to kind of improvise a little bit in order to get things done, because nothing ever goes right. Everything always gets fucked up at some point. And that's what's great about this whole sequence there for me.
One thing that's also great about this sequence, and Kudzi, I want to get your opinion on this, is nothing says, I don't have a secret government job, everything is fine, nothing to worry about, than holding a real quick wedding inside the wife's hospital chapel. Nothing to worry about. I'm not, going off on some random mission somewhere. I'm going to my completely normal job for the Department of Traffic Control. Hey, let's get married real quick just in case I die.
Well, it's dangerous, man, right? It's dangerous. What do you think, Kearnsy?
About that whole sequence, I think it's a really good sequence, because I think the whole air of it is he tells her, like, I just need you to trust me, and she says she does, and she keeps kind of trying to get him to say, and he can't quite say. I kind of like that they get married, because it's for her, even though he doesn't tell her until the end of the movie what he does. Marrying her there on the spot shows that he is committed, that he's not cheating on her, which I'm sure is probably running through her head, that it's like, okay, he's doing something. he probably doesn't work for the Department of Traffic, but clearly he's committed to us and to this marriage. So I like it. It's a great scene, and also I love the little, like, what is it, like frog and panda bear rings that they have, which they're wearing at the end of the movie. I love that too. They didn't even get new rings yet. I love that. I love that.
I like that callback too.
So then comes the incredible task of breaking into the fucking Vatican. So let's count. Burj Khalifa, done it. The Kremlin, done it. The Vatican, the most heavily guarded place on the planet,
done it.
And how did they get in there? Oh, we drive a car, a very nice plush sports car that sticks out like a sore thumb, over a grate on the ground, and then we just drop in underneath. Cool.
You get your DHL product placement in.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Get the
it costs a lot of money to those stunts.
That might be my favorite. That might be my favorite comedic moment of the movie, where they're both arguing in Italian. They
say he's like, I don't really know a lot of Italian, so don't take very long. I feel like he said something to that effect. Because it's like, hey, pasta, meatball.
Meatball.
That's literally what you have to do. Just say something that sounds Italian, wave your hands around like that at each other, and just be like, hey, what are you doing?
Hey,
it's
a me. It's a PLD.
But, you put the mustache for that voice, so it works.
Yeah. He's got the Super Mario Bros. Mustache. Necessary. But then, as PLD mentioned it, no mission can ever go smoothly. As they're going to break into the Vatican, they have somehow subdued Owen Davian with his security guard right outside the bathroom door, having no fucking idea that his boss is just getting mugged. Then we have the first time, which, Paul, we discussed this last week, that this was the first time that we start to see the masks slowly start to lose their effect.
Right.
they're not as foolproof as they used to be, because it just starts to go wrong. And then you have the uploading of the voice strip. And then you're like, this is taking way too long. Surely you could have just grabbed him, pulled him down, and then just got out and left. That would have been much easier. But no, then you have Ethan there in the mirror. The guard comes in and he's like, sir, are you okay? And he's like,
right.
Well, I think the whole idea of them like having Ethan pretend to be him is the fact that if they did just pull him, then eventually the guard, like he did, is going to walk in there. If he doesn't find him, then the Vatican's just going to be shut down and they're not going to be able to escape.
Absolutely. By the way, I want to point out how awesome PSH is at playing Tom Cruise. He really pulls it off very, very well. Unsurprisingly, given what a stellar actor that PSH is. And PSH,
well, I mean, look, PSH once played the role of both Judah and Jesus.
That's very
at the same time. That's a reference. I wonder if anybody will get what movie I'm referencing with that quote.
I think longtime Poly fans are going to be around forever.
So good. That's my favorite comedic performance from him.
Yeah, he pulls it off so well. Absolutely.
Tonight, the part of Jesus and Judas will both be portrayed by
PSH, rest in peace, man. He is one of the greatest actors of all time. So we're lucky to have him. This is actually why I'll throw this in there really quick. This is why Mission Impossible 3 to me is a throwback to the 90s action films, because 90s action films, like, they are always so apt for creating great acting talent and putting them in like ridiculous movies. Well, so it makes it ridiculous. That's why the whole
J.J. Abrams wrote a bunch of great 90s action movies. So it makes sense he would direct one, you know. And this is 06, so it's like Batman Begins just came out. This is the same year as Casino Royale, so action movies are kind of making that turn to like being way more realistic. And this one, I think it sits nicely in that like we can still kind of make movies like Speed and Cliffhanger.
It's just
and
getting
it's
those
gonna be okay.
getting those big stars to play because it kind of legitimizes the movie, and that's why PSH, and it's the whole reason why PSH legitimizes this movie as the best of the Mission Impossibles for me.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's like Powers, Booth, and Sudden Death. Ed Harris and The Rock.
That was a reference just for me. No
that was specifically just for you.
No, but it's true, and we're gonna keep talking about him for this. But he's so good in this, even in those moments of like, you know, like you believe that he can't open his mouth or else Tom Cruise's voice is going to come out. Like how red his face is getting.
Yeah.
He's going a level that I think J.J. Abrams probably didn't even need to direct. It was kind of just like, here's what I got to do. And PSH is like, okay,
I got this. I got you.
I got you.
Sit back.
It's just like, what does it say in the script? Okay, cool.
Got it.
Cool. I'll add some 10 layers to this.
Yeah, just let he's like Sir Anthony Hopkins. Just say roll camera and let him go.
There are just actors like that who just don't really need to be directed.
Right.
They're just kind of like, okay,
Nick Cage is another example.
I agree. Even in the, and you look at like National Treasure, it's like he's just like, okay, Ben Gates, I got this character.
Yep,
I got him.
I know he is. Don't even try to direct. I know who he is.
Yeah.
Cool. So moving on, then we this is another example coming up here of like when they pull Owen onto the plane, and this is another perfect example of how this is just a fucking kiss ass fest of how good PSH is, because there's the moment where they're on the flight back to the US and like Davian is too calm under like Ethan is brutally interrogating him, and Davian's just like, what's your name?
This is the foreplay for Count to 10, quite honestly. Yeah. This is like what I was talking about. We're going to have foreplay leading up to it. This is one of the big parts of the foreplay, because this is like Count to 10 part 1. Obviously, it's the reverse of it. But exactly what you're saying. Oh, when Davian is so stone cold and bad, he doesn't respond to anything. Just it's almost like it's like you're bothering me. He's like, what's your name? You know what I'm going to do?
This scene reminds me a lot of the ending of 7 between Brad Pitt and Spacey, to where it is losing his mind, and Spacey's just like I'm just gonna laugh. I'm just gonna laugh.
Holy shit, that's a great comparison.
Because
I'm gonna kill you.
Like you said, it's like, are you married? Do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a wife? Because I'm gonna kill her. And meanwhile, Cruise is just like losing his mind, and is just like,
because he's giving him.
PSH exactly what he wants, because he knows because once he knows Cruz isn't going to kill him. So once he starts saying the things, he's like, oh, I got this guy. And I know that he has somebody close to him, because that is what set him off.
Yep. And the whole thing comes down to, he does this whole thing where he drags him across and like throws him out the plane, like hangs him off the plane, barely strapped being shown. And he gets back on. And the only thing he says is, okay, Ethan. Like that, just to say, I know your name now.
As soon as Luther said Ethan no, like for the first part, I was just like, I completely disregarded it, and then he pulls him in, and then you realize that he now knows his name. I'm like, oh no, it wasn't even Ethan that said it. It was Luther, who's like his right hand guy, who always like is trying to always do what's best for him. Giving him this advice, don't get married, you're going to ruin it. It's exactly what Luther said. Like, don't get married, you're going to ruin her life. This is exactly what he was trying to avoid. I
honestly feel like they call back to the scene in Fallout with when Ethan freaks out on the guy and Luther has to hold him back again. It's almost like Ethan's learned after this experience, like, oh, don't do that, because that's going to let the villain know that I'm weak, and you can't show villains that you're weak.
Definitely not. But what a great moment for Davian. It's like, this is one of the defining moments for Davian right here.
And for Cruz, I think Cruz is acting his heart out in those moments. Like,
absolutely. Yeah, Cruz holds his own, and that says something when you're dealing with a Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I mean, these are both Oscar-nominated actors. Let's not beat around the bush. Like, these are two great actors of their time at kind of 06, kind of like, I think certainly at the height of both of their powers, kind of,
I think Cruz was actually in a very interesting
spot. He was. This was the War of the Worlds,
right around that era.
Scientology, the Katie Holmes marriage,
the Oprah
couch
Winfrey
jumping
thing. I wasn't sure about it. Why? Honestly, I think this is why it didn't do well in the box office. It didn't do as well in the box office for this one because of that, and that's why it took a long time to get back on the road with Ghost Protocol and how it was so different. If this had been a different Tom Cruise era, I kind of feel like this would have sparked off something different, to be honest with you, as far as it goes.
It is funny, if this movie came out in, let's say, 02 or something, like, I feel like we probably wouldn't have gone Ghost Protocol to Fallout. And we probably wouldn't be getting Dead Reckoning in the same way.
Absolutely.
But so after that, the obvious thing happens. They have Damien, and then they're taking them off, and then a convoy. It's going to happen. A convoy ambushes them, but not before Lindsay's microdot is deciphered, and it's a warning about Davian working with Brassel.
Brassel, right? That the call came from Brassel's office. That's what we know. The call came from Brassel's office to Davian.
Mercenaries grab a hold of Davian, and then it dawns on Ethan, oh fuck, Julia's in danger.
What a great action set piece that was, though. I mean, quite frankly, I know we talk about action later on in our action beats, but that was just a thrilling ride from left to right. And the best moment of, though, is not an action piece. It's the look that Owen Davian gives as he's sitting on the helicopter, watching Ethan Hunt flying away, Ethan Hunt not being able to shoot at him. Davian just in his glory. We know what's coming next.
And that's the thing. You know what's coming next, but you can't stop it because Ethan rushes to the hospital, discovers that Julia's not there. He gets a phone call, and it's Davian saying, "You've got 48 hours to get the rabbit's foot, or I'm going to kill your wife."
From her phone, yeah.
From her phone. And then just as Ethan turns around to go and do it, to go and start putting the team together, he's arrested by IMF, and he's questioned for the loss of Davian. And it's just Jesus Christ, what does this guy have to do?
What I love about that sequence, really quickly, that whole scene, the arresting sequence, is the fact that we see Ethan Hunt completely kind of lose control of the situation. Because even at his worst, even when he's improvising, he always seems like he's thinking, and he always thinks of a way out of it. He can't. He tries. You can see him getting desperate. Just say I'd already left when you got there. I'm gonna. He's so desperate. His mind is so on Julia and so distracted at this point.
Because he's acting on emotion. When he's on missions, he's not acting on emotion. He's acting on skill, on all his training. So that's why he's able to be okay, this plan went south, but I got 5 backup plans. Whereas here, it's just he's
nothing.
He's focused on, I gotta get the rabbit foot to this dude in 48 hours.
He tries to run, and he gets caught.
Yeah, that moment when he escapes them and he's kind of avoiding, and you're thinking oh, it's Ethan Hunt. And then the car opens and he just gets hit and goes down.
You're oh shit, he's actually gonna get caught. He's only got 48 hours, son of a bitch.
And you as an audience is no.
Damn it, let him go.
It's Tom Cruise. He's supposed to get out.
He's not supposed to get caught. He's supposed to save the day. Let him go.
Fucking Hunt.
We also have Mission Impossible 1. Come on.
But
climb rocks.
He always does have a way out. And in this case, it comes in the form of Musgrave, who discreetly mouths that the rabbit's foot is in Shanghai. Which
Musgrave is his friend. He's not
Musgrave is his boy. He's how he found out it's in Shanghai, we don't know, but we roll with it.
Because we've built up Musgrave the entire time. Is when they brought Tom Cruise back in. He wanted Tom Cruise to save Kerry Russell's character. He knows that Tom Cruise is going off mission. He's done off missions before. He's covered for Cruise's missions before. He's been covered for a while.
Going back to the thing I said about Luther and Ethan, that first scene in the 7-Eleven, you get the sense that they've been working together for a while now.
Right.
And that when Ethan became a trainer, that he was the guy that he was all of Ethan's agents are they're going to be good field ops. So they, they've been having water cooler talk, certainly, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
The most intense water cooler talk. Stephen Hunt, but water cooler talk nonetheless.
That's right.
We were watching American Idol last night. Can you believe what Simon Cowell said? It is insane.
This water filter has to be replaced.
This water filter needs to be replaced. He just picks up and runs.
We're going to die from bad water.
Why are we using plastic cups? Don't you know the plastic is bad? Regardless.
Have I shown you the sea turtle picture? I will get the sea turtle picture on my flip phone. Look at those pixels. It's 2006.
Ethan goes off to Shanghai, and conveniently, his entire team is there, sent by Musgrave under the guise of another mission, which doesn't seem suspicious to anyone who might be able to put 2 and 2 together at all. But regardless, as I say, we keep moving.
They don't have time to be suspicious.
We don't have time to be suspicious, no. And they go on another mission, which we're definitely going to talk about later. He obtains the rabbit's foot and delivers it to Davian, who then tranquilizes him and puts another micro bomb in his head, similar to the one that he used to kill Lindsay. And then he wakes up, and we get the scene. Mm-hmm. We're going to go into it a little bit in detail, I'm sure, when it comes up, but this is where we get the counter 10 sequence. And despite Ethan begging, like pleading, I've bought you the real rabbit's foot, that's it. It doesn't work, and Davian seemingly shoots Julia dead and leaves. And then who should fucking walk in right after that? Musgrave. And he reveals himself. He's like, hey, I was the traitor all along. And let me tell you, Julia's alive. Davian disguised his translator as Julia, used our tricks against you. You used the mask on him. Now he's using it on you. What a fucking switcheroo. What like a bait and switch. Because I was sitting there like, holy shit, he just shot his wife.
How effective is it? Because quite frankly speaking, this is something we saw it in Mission Impossible 2. The whole thing where he disguised the bad guy as Tom Cruise himself, and like without the voice, he covered up the voice so he couldn't talk or whatever. Well, and like
Mission Impossible 1 too, at the end, he's pretended to be the villain.
Right, exactly. And here it is, though. And yet it's so well crafted, we do buy into it the whole time. It doesn't even cross our mind for a second that this is not Julia.
And what I like too, and I think Chris Hartwell, who's an old school kind of video essay guy, he did a video on Mission Impossible 3, and he talked about this scene. And something that's great is the different levels of Ethan goes through, to where first he's like, I got you the rabbit foot, like that's the rabbit foot, and then it's the real rabbit foot. It's in Paris. If you want to get like trying to be like, what do I have to say to let her go? Because he tries
like
threatening
the
him.
stages of grief, isn't it? It's like the denial.
He tries threatening him, then he tries appeasing him to like, I got the real one, to being like, no, I could get you the real one. They just like, he doesn't even know what to do.
Tactic upon tactic upon
tactic. And Philip Seymour Hoffman is just stone faced the whole time. And I love those responses. It's not in Paris. Like it's not.
And he goes through and he just gets emotional just the once. He goes, do you think I'm playing? I won't think I would, because he shoots her in the leg just to kind of like bring it forth and everything else. But the rest of it's just this face of evil. It's stone cold death. He's like, and as Tom Cruise does his best acting, he actually even gets a tear down. I think it's actually a serious tear. And he is going left and right. And it's just, Davian amps it up to the point of like, it's just one of the greatest action movie scenes of all time. Quite frankly.
It's such a great hero-villain confrontation, because in this series, we're so used to Ethan Hunt, as we said, disguising himself as a villain, getting one over on the bad guy or the person, like in the first movie, assisting the bad guy. We're used to that, and here Ethan Hunt is completely defenseless, and it's a new side to the character that I think is great, that leads to why the Ethan that we have in the later movies is so good compared to the one we had in the first two.
The good guy loses. That's what we don't expect. It's like we expect him to get out of it, and when he shoots him, like it's such a successful thing, because it's crafted so well that, like I said, we buy into it. We buy that this is his wife. We don't believe it's not his wife at this point, despite all the clues we've had before this could happen. We buy into the fact where, well, he's going to say something. Tom Cruise is going to say something to save his wife, because they're not going to kill his wife from that. And then it happens, and he loses. That, like, it's so well done that when it's reversed a little bit later, we find out later on that it was his Davian's former security person ever underneath the mask. We don't feel cheapened about it. Like, if the scene isn't done well, then we're kind of like, we kind of roll our eyes and go, that was cheap, whatever. Okay, so yeah, of course it was. Because we're all in. We're emotionally invested. We're all in on the thing that we're like, oh, thank God, alongside Tom Cruise at this point. That's how effective that is.
And again, for as good as Hoffman, if Tom Cruise played it kind of like John McClane in Die Hard, when he knows Alan Rickman is not one of the hostages escaping, like if he played it like that, then we'd be like, oh, okay, we're not surprised. We were waiting for the moment that they ripped the mask off. Here we're like, well, now is this going to be Ethan's just going to go on a killing spree when he gets out of here? Like, what's going to happen? Is this going to be like
John Wick.
the end of Mad Max where he just goes on a revenge tour? Like,
absolutely.
and then we're like relieved. They're like, she's okay. Great. Well, we think. We know she's not dead right now. That's all we do know.
Right. Yeah. What a great tactic by Musgrave comes in. Like the first thing he could have just like taken him on them, but he just comes on. Cruz is already in shock, but by immediately going, it's not her. She's still alive, dude. We just tested it. What a great way to set forth the next motion. Because Tom Cruise is now like, what the fuck is going on at this point?
Yeah, he's getting Ethan while he's weak, because then Musgrave, he says, I was working with Davian to get the rabbit's foot, so the IMF would have to launch a counterattack, like a preemptive strike against the terrorist that Davian works for. And the whole ruse of bringing in his wife in was just to make sure that they got the actual rabbit's foot. And then, so Ethan then goes on to knock out Musgrave, gets himself free somehow, uses Musgrave's phone to get Julia's location, which, shout out to Benji, manages to locate Julia. I will say that he did that very well. Billy could have done it quicker, but regardless, Ethan locates Julia.
Wrong, sir.
I'm never wrong, just different levels of right.
Well, this is the wrongest part of right then.
He gets to Julia, but lo and behold, Davian's there too. And what does he do? Ethan probably forgotten about this point. He's got the bomb in his head. Davian arms the bomb. So Ethan is literally Mission Impossible, racing against time. Fights, kills Davian before the bomb can detonate, and he frees Julia. And this is where, and I'm going to come to a little bit of this later on, one of the most tense moments where he puts, like, Julia knows now what he does. Like, it's all out there, all in the open, no secrets between the two of them. And he's like, look, we're going to jerry-rig this random defibrillator. You can bring me back. Like, use this it's not even an actual defibrillator. It's like he just put some shit together.
A can of like exposed wire and water.
Yeah. This should not work. But he's like, look, I trust you. There's no one I trust more than you. You can bring me back.
She is a nurse. She is a nurse. That's a good thing.
And he's like, look, if I can teach you how to shoot a gun and you can use it, you can do this.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. It's a very tense moment.
I love the little moment of like him, very intense, but trying to connect with her when he talks about reloading the magazine. He's like, gotta slam it in, like the batteries and the flashlight in the kitchen. Like, he's like, I'm trying to speak the language you'll understand. Because I'm kind of dying here and I know people are going to come.
And it's also in this point that you're like, does Ethan bite the bullet? Because at first he doesn't come back. And then the guard comes in, who she kills the henchman. Then she kills Musgrave, who has the rabbit's foot.
Right.
And then she manages to bring Ethan back, who, like, he finally just gets it all out in the open. Brassel and the rest of the IMF, they're like, all right, we may not like how you've done it, but you did a good job. You got the rabbit's foot back. You can go on your honeymoon with Julia.
Yeah, it's a great ending as well. I love it.
And they kind of leave it up in the air of like, is Ethan gonna just fully retire now? Is Ethan gonna stay on training? And again, I like that moment between Cruz and Fishburne to where it's like, I'm gonna take him home. What is the rabbit's foot? Tell me you'll stay, and I'll tell you. All right, I'll see you later. And Fishburne just smile like, okay.
And at least we know that Julia didn't get shot 3 times in the chest off screen, and Ethan was wounded for the rest of his life, like Naya was apparently.
Like Naya was from India.
Did you know that, Kenzie?
No, I did not.
Apparently, that is apparently what happened to Naya. So the Mission Impossible fan wiki says was that she was shot 3 times in the chest at her home in San Francisco. Ethan came home and was haunted by it for the rest of his life.
Wow. Is that why Anthony Hopkins retired from the IMF? He just couldn't deal with the loss of Fandy Newton. He's like, I can't. I retire.
Maybe Anthony Hopkins killed her. Maybe Tom Cruise had to
kill that Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2. Paul just figured out the twist. It was Anthony Hopkins all along. If they did that, I mean, look, they're bringing back one of the villains from the first movie in this one.
They're bringing back
say they can't bring Hopkins back.
Absolutely.
I think they should. I think they should, especially now because, he's, what was the movie that he was in a couple years ago. Was it The Father?
Yeah.
He was really good in. Yeah, that movie was great. So if you're gonna bring it back, fucking bring him back
He
now.
was in Transformers like last night, so he's not above doing these things.
Yeah,
There you
100%.
go.
Westworld. He was in Westworld. He could do it. Yeah, absolutely do it.
Yeah, let's
He
not
played
bring Ed
Odin in Thor.
Yeah.
Come on, he'll do it.
Oh, yes,
Come
he
on.
did. You're right.
Okay.
But with that being said, that was a good little conversation we had there. Let's get into our next category, which is called the knock list. This is where we take a member of either team, can be hero, villain, anyone that is not Ethan Hunt, who is our MVP of the movie. If you guys don't mind, I'll go first. Mine is a man who is so devious, so cunning, so manipulative that he puts Jim from the first movie to shame. And it's Musgrave.
Oh,
He gave Ethan time to escape, told him that it wasn't actually Julie that got shot, told Davian that Lindsay was coming for him, and set Brassel up to take the fall. Like, you look at that guy and like his relationship with Ethan at the start, as Kearns mentioned, like there's absolutely been some like off-screen missions together that we haven't seen. And he's way too handsome to be a shit weasel. But my God, is he a great shit weasel?
He is. You're not wrong. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I really did like Billy Crab. I gotta say, with all the talk that Davian gets, and rightfully so, he is the other villain in the movie. And he is a great villain because he's one of those villains who believes in what he's doing completely. He believes he's doing the right thing. He's doing it for the greater good, as it is. He's not being. This is what he thinks is actually going to be the way to go. And he tricks us too. He tricks us all in the way. He obviously everything goes towards Brassel. I mean, a discerning fan, when they have the thing that the call came from Brassel's office, you kind of think that Brassel's the red herring at this point. You kind of figure, oh, well, maybe Brassel's actually okay. That's when I actually started thinking it was Musgrave. So it wasn't a big shock when Musgrave came out, but he does play his part very, very well. I'm not going to lie. But to jump ahead, though, I just had a class action flashback because I was quite sure all three of us were going to go with Davian. I would have written down the knock list. The MVP of the movie is Davian because that is my MVP. I'll be a basic bitch.
Oh, wow. You're not going Benji? I thought you were going to go Benji.
Benji, I have plenty of movies to go with it. It's like I only have one movie like Billy to go with. I have a bunch of movies to go with for Benji.
I had that comment. I deserve that one.
It's Davian, though. It's Davian full out because, like I said, he's the greatest villain in the franchise by far. He's, again, alongside Brigadier General Francis X. Hummel from The Rock. He's probably my favorite action movie villain, and maybe alongside Alan Rickman from Die Hard. Those are the big three for me. It's
wow.
Rickman, Harris, and
but is Harris really the villain in The Rock, or is it the system?
Sure.
It is the system. It is the system.
That
He
is
the
Michael Bihn's the real hero.
antagonist. He's the antagonist.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think you might have to rethink your top three.
Oh, maybe. Do you think so, huh?
Power spoof.
just put Ed Harris as replace it with Ed Harris in Geostorm. There you go.
Or Ed Harris in National Treasure 2, Book of Secrets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's plenty of movies we can put Ed Harris's villains in there and go from there. Just Cause that's his. When you talk about
Harris Sons, this podcast is not.
That's right. That hasn't begun yet. We're working on that still. But yeah, no. To me, it's Davian hands down. He is the one that he drives this bus, and it's the reason why nothing goes as well without him being at the steering wheel. So Kearnsy, what about you? Who's your MVP?
My MVP. You guys both had great picks. You went on the villain side. I went on. I guess they would be considered hero side, but I actually went with Julia Michelle Monaghan.
Oh,
okay. Here's what.
All right.
She was the hardest role in the movie because everyone else they're either working for IMF, they're working for Hoffman, they're the villain, they're the hero, whatever. She has to play the character who doesn't know any of this, who is just the bystander. But you have to believe that Ethan Hunt would leave field work for her, would maybe leave the IMF for her. And that's a hard role to play. And she plays it beautifully. In that last scene when Ethan is showing her the gun and she has to defend herself, and when she's doing the CPR on him and like banging his chest, you feel all that. And that's, I think those are the roles in these movies that we kind of overlook because they're not the big action roles. They're not, she doesn't get the villain, count to 10 moment. She doesn't get the twist reveal. But she's fantastic in it. And she's one of the reasons why I love this movie so much is because you believe it. You believe that this is the person that Ethan would put this world behind for.
Yeah, you know what? I never really thought about it that way. I'm blinded by Davian, but you do make some great points. That I mean, Julia is definitely a unique person in this franchise, and it's the reason why moving forward, Ethan Hunt's character is who he is, and she does a great job with not a whole lot of screen time in this one.
I mean, there's a reason why 2 of the next sequels reference her and you see her because she's this important figure, and I wouldn't be surprised if in the next film or the one after that she makes another appearance. I would
be surprised. I would be surprised
if she wasn't. Yeah, if in Dead Reckoning Part 2 she didn't show up, I'd be surprised.
Absolutely.
She's like working for like the medical department of IMF or something. Somehow she managed to get a job at IMF.
There is no that's Dead Reckoning Part 2. She's revealed to be the villain behind the whole time.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
With Jim Phelps, he never died. He actually came back.
Neither did Dave.
That turns out it's Max in a mask of Julia.
No. It turns out it's Gordon Bombay.
Actually, you know who it really is.
Did you just say it's Gordon Bombay?
It's Emilio Estevez the whole time. He didn't actually die.
Oh, Jack.
Yeah. I'm really sorry. I forgot Emilio Estevez's name, so I just went with the first character he played.
I was like, why is he mentioning Emilio Estevez? I was like, oh, wait, yeah, because he played Jack.
And if it's up to this podcast, though, it's definitely Billy who's behind it all at the end.
Billy is.
I don't know.
Actually, we are gonna get Billy coming back. It's gonna be Benji versus Billy, steel cage match to the death.
Benji's gonna die, and Billy's
feels up now. So is that even a fair fight? He's not the man in the chair anymore.
Billy was field up. He was the one flying the helicopter.
You're right. I've got to be honest. I haven't watched. Aside from your episode, I have not really watched Mission Impossible too recently.
You watch what matters. But let's just get out of the way, shall we? The next category we have. The scene that is the namesake of this category. Count to 10. And
I mean, come on.
I'm going to tell you guys, the thing that I love the most about this scene is the fact that he used his translator from the Vatican because he was pissed off that she didn't protect him in the Vatican. So that's the reason that she was dressed up as Julia. I was like, wow.
He held on to it.
She fucked up. Because you essentially fucked up and got yourself caught, she died.
Why did the other security guard? Why did that dude just get off? Where's he?
That's a good point.
Why'd the translator have to be the one to die? Not the one who walked in and was like, oh, it's not weird that he's not talking to me for several seconds.
Maybe she must have been the one in charge. That must have been what it was.
I guess.
Technically speaking.
Or it's because she was the only woman and they couldn't really use a man.
They couldn't use that. The big guy wouldn't fit under the mask very well. That's true. Wow, Julie, you've got bigger.
Now I'm just thinking of a comedy sketch version of the scene to where it's like Michelle Mahon's face on like a giant like full
Julia,
like an SNL sketch.
And the same like tank top, just trying to be like, it's me, Ethan.
But I say this, do either of you have another?
I do actually.
Do you want to do? Okay. We should maybe do one that's in addition to because content is such a good one. Since it's the name of the category. Go ahead, Kearns. What's your favorite?
The reason why I didn't say much about Musgrave is because my favorite dramatic moment is actually that reveal that he's the traitor. Because the way it's played is you just have this moment of Julie has been killed, and then coming right into frame is Musgrave to be like, yeah, I'm the traitor. And I like the fact that he doesn't so much reveal this stuff to do like the evil mustache twirling, like classic Bond villain. I'm going to reveal my plan. All he's doing is he's just trying to make sure that Lindsay didn't catch on to it. That he's like, she took the bait, right? Yeah. Like she doesn't, it's not me. No one knows it's me, right? And I really like that. I like, because in a lesser movie, it would be, yeah, it was me, the villain, the whole time. Let me tell you the plan of how I did it, Ethan. And it's not. It's literally just, your wife is alive. Now tell me, does the IMF know? Does anyone know that it's me?
Right.
And I really like that. I think it's played really well. And I also love how Cruz is still in shock that it's like, he can't even really react to this because he's so just like, you know,
even
until he starts processing.
His wife is alive, that he's still like,
he's just everything. Yeah, and then I like what breaks him out of it is just like grabbing the pen and knocking him out,
Yeah.
But at first, it's just he's like he doesn't even know what to think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if I had to pick something else besides Count to 10 to be the scene I mentioned before, which is the when he gets caught, because just the gamut of emotions that's going through his face. He just heard from Davian that he's going to kill his wife in 48 hours to get the rabbit foot, and there he is having to stand down against all of his fellow teammates in a way, fellow division FBI.
Yeah, they got the one agent who clearly knows Ethan. He's like, Ethan, you know what we're gonna do. Just get in the van with us.
Just that face. He's just kind of like, no, just it's so like deadpan, like just
because I like that agent clearly he was either a guy who either was in the field with Ethan or was maybe trained by Ethan, and then it's like, so he's like, if he starts running, we might be in trouble. I'm hoping he just comes quietly with us.
And it's just how Ethan reacts to it. It's because it's not like it's actually the antithesis of the Tom Cruise every scene. Tom Cruise, we talk about a lot how he's so intense in every scene. He's like, the water filter, everything is so intense. But in this case, he's not. This is the time where Tom Cruise is supposed to be intense. You got to understand. I need to know where the rabbit foot is. He has my wife. And he's not like that. He's just kind of like, just tell him I was already gone. I'm. It's such a great moment, drama
because he's so singularly focused, and he knows that no one can help him.
Right, exactly.
He knows that by this point he already thinks that Fishburne is corrupt.
Right.
So look at it. This guy could be corrupt. If I tell them about my way, it's not going to help me. It's going to hurt me.
What about you, Matty?
I mean, mine is it's the count to 10 moment, and I think that nothing can really compare to just how cold PSH was as Owen Davian in this moment. Like, we see him, he has this very calm demeanor. Like, nothing can really rattle him other than like himself getting worked up. It's just like, you think I won't do it? Like that's himself getting riled up to get at Ethan. We've seen in the last two movies, Ethan's like this master tactician. He's this master manipulator. He got under Ambrose's skin. He got under Jim's skin. Now it's been flipped.
Yeah.
Now it's been flipped on him, and it's just like, whoa. Yeah. And the cold calmness of Davian just holding a gun to his wife's head and just being like, 1, 2, 3. And he's like, if that had been Julia, it wouldn't matter. He would have done it.
Yeah. 100%.
It wasn't just a game. It wasn't a game that he was playing in the same way, like I talked about, playing to where he knew Ethan wasn't going to kill him, because if he what's the point of even putting him on this plane? If you're going to kill me, you would have done it in, the Vatican. Whereas here, you're right. If it really was Julia, same exact reaction, because it's like, either way, he finds out if he has the actual rabbit's foot or not.
Right. So, I mean, Matt, it's my favorite too. Count 10 is by far the best in the franchise, to be honest with you. Not just the movie, the franchise. So, cool. All right, Matty. Next up
is our category Light the Fuse, which is our best action moment. Kearnsy, I'm gonna let you lead this one. What was your favorite action moment of the movie?
There's a lot of great ones. Obviously the attack on the convoy I was thinking about, but I went with a smaller one, which is Ethan's escape from IMF. I think there's a great setup with the whole sort of like reading the lips. And then it's just the moment in the elevator, it's the original elevator scene, Captain America. So where it's the agents, and he just knocks him out. And then I like the bit of comedy that gets thrown in. First, then it's Fishburne is like, we got all locked out, we got to fight it. And then I like the bit, it shows Ethan's smarts, that he's able to sort of, I don't know how, impersonate Lawrence Fishburne's voice. And then there's, the moment to where it's like, I can't get through. And it's like, oh, he must be holding on to the relay button. Smart. Right. And then the great bit of, then you bust out and you see that kind of like in True Lies, they actually are in an actual like Department of Transportation building. And then the button on the scene is just, we are family. And you see Fishburne just being like, son of a bitch. It's great. And it's a great bit of action. There's a great bit of comedy. It's just a solid, small little action scene.
I love that. No, it's a good one. That's a great one.
PLD.
Well, mine is actually, I could go with a couple different ones. I could talk about the bridge sequence, which was one of the coolest action sequences. I could talk about the Shanghai, which I'm sure we will at some point, the Shanghai, the swinging over Batman style roof jumping But for me, it's a smaller one as well. It is simply after count to 10, and when Benji tracks down where Julia really is, it's the running. It's TC Legend doing what he does best, running through China with the TC Legend run with the long tracking shot of him just running through the China. I was like, God damn, that's such perfect form.
If you have a Mission Impossible bingo card, long tracking shot of Tom Cruise running is on that bingo card.
Absolutely. This is the one that really sings home. He's jumping over roofs. He's throwing his way through faces. He's got Benji in the phone. He's like, left, right, no, this way, this way. And the whole sequence is like, I can't be talking to you. I'm just be talking to you. And the whole sequence just has a great little action, comedy, stakes, powerful as TC Legend at his best. So
absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned the Shanghai heist. Gave that a bit of love because it's actually not my favorite. Mine is more it's equal parts action and drama. It's the moment where Julia has to bring Ethan back to life.
Right.
Because you're thinking back to at the start of the movie, that was Ethan and someone he cared about. That was right. Ethan and Lindsay. That was Ethan and his little sister,
right?
Supposedly. And you're thinking, is she going to be able to bring him back? Because he's just essentially fried his own brain. Putting a defibrillator to, in your mouth and frying yourself like that, that's going to do some form of cerebral damage.
Right.
And you're just thinking, is she going to be able to bring him back? We don't know if that's the thing with the earlier ones. When it got to 4, I was like, okay, there's going to be more coming up. But like we were saying, this one feels like the standalone. I was kind of like, holy crap, is this it? Is he never coming back from this? And, they come back, take the rabbit's foot, and Ethan's done for. So, boys, let me tell you, I was sweating bullets during the scene where she's doing the CPR and try to bring him back. I was like, oh, hell no. Is this it? Have we lost him? And then she has to kill Musgrave and a henchman at the same time when she's never held a gun. It's a great action scene, but it's so stressful at the same time. I'm just like, whew.
It's for me, it's the pounding on the chest with her fist, the last ditch effort.
100%. Wow, what a great project. I mean, we didn't even talk about some of the biggest action sequences. We talked about all of us chose more smaller action beats, which is kind of cool.
To me, that kind of shows the strength of this movie is because we talked about starting with the next movie. It does kind of become, well, how can we almost kill Tom Cruise this time? Right. Whereas this is way more of a character piece. It's way more, we're invested in what happens to these people. And so the smaller scenes are where the characters stand out.
100%. But with that being said, I think it's almost criminal not to talk about how cool those action sequences were. I love the Shanghai jump sequence.
I mean, I love the moment on the bridge when and that was a real stunt when he gets blown into the car and just hits it, and you feel it. And that's the thing about Mission Impossible.
Have you seen the behind the scene? Have you seen the behind the scenes of that?
Yeah, where he's on the rope and the whole.
He took a slamming in that.
And even the moment of throwing the gun and having to jump across the hole in the bridge and the running and just the franticness. Although it has always annoyed me, I'm like, why did Ethan not pull out that gun at the first time?
That's a good question. Good question.
You were right at the car. Why didn't you do that the first time?
He was focusing on his running.
Yeah.
he has
I must get the high hands.
Oh, so good. So good.
With that being said, let's move on to the final category. We started with your mission, and we end, as always, should you choose to accept it. This is the category where we take someone from the movie, obviously not Ethan, because we know Ethan's going to be back. Luther's coming back, so we have Kittredge is going to be returning in this movie. So this category is who else would we want to see come back? Mine, again, I'm picking small. I'm hoping that we get Greg Grottenberg to come back. There was not enough of him in this movie for my liking. It's one shot, and he's got. Well, I can't even remember dude's name. I think it's Kevin. Kevin, also, I think it's something like Kevin, but it's just that one moment of, like, as you said, Ethan explaining what he does. Traffic has a memory. Like, I studied traffic patterns. I would love for there to be a scene in Dead Reckoning Part 1 where we just see Kevin, like Ethan's like chasing someone in a car, and Kevin's just like, how did you know where the car was going to be? I studied traffic patterns. Just like a small little callback like that.
Kevin now works for the Department of Traffic.
Kevin now works for the Department
I love
of
it.
Traffic.
Because he was like, this is how I get chicks.
This is cool. Right.
Yes.
I love it.
Because when he walks away from the party, everyone's like, I'd marry him, but I'd marry him too.
And he doesn't think it's because it's Tom Cruise, his TC legend. He's like, oh no, chicks dig traffic. Okay.
Right. Absolutely.
That's how I do it.
Kearnsy, how about you, my friend? Who do you want to bring back?
For me, it's Lawrence Fishburne, because we now, with Fallout, with the events of that, we've lost Alec Baldwin, and I think Fishburne's sort of coming back. Maybe not in the exact same role, but there's references to the president's got a job and all stuff. Maybe Fishburne's kind of grown in the IMF. I think he'd be a great character to sort of bring back, and he's one of those actors who Lawrence Fishburne just has made a career out of being great, kind of like supporting the hero character. Yeah, and I think it would make sense, like I said, especially now that we've lost Baldwin in this series, to have, we need to reference Bond. We need the M character. We need the character who's going to give Ethan the mission. Why not have Fishburne, especially since we're bringing Kittredge back, we're these are the last two movies of this series. Why not bring back one of the old school, guys, mission givers. Yeah. And now him and Ethan are friends, so it won't be like in this movie to where it was the wag and the finger. It's more he'll be supporting him.
And Anthony Hopkins is now the president. I like this.
Isn't he British? I don't think he can be president by our
If Arnold can be a governor, Anthony Hopkins can be the president.
Oh, well, that is completely different because I am such a better actor than Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Easy now.
Have you seen Football? It is on Netflix right now, as long as my documentary. Does Anthony Hopkins have a documentary on Netflix? I don't think so.
I love it.
Well,
first of all, then we're gonna do a crossover with Top Gun Maverick, and we're gonna have Rear Admiral Kane, the Hammer, is gonna become the new IMF mission giver. Ed Harris. No, in all seriousness, I'm gonna bring back somebody which actually almost sounds like a joke at first, but I think actually could be actually very dramatic in a way if done right. I'm bringing back Rick. Aaron Paul returning to the franchise. Michelle Maha's brother returning to the franchise. And it's been a long time. It's been over a decade now. He knows what Tom does. He know about his brother-in-law, what he does? Does he know? Has he been introduced to the IMF? Has he gone the other way because of it? Is he pissed off because Tom Cruise Ethan Hunt keeps putting Julia in danger? You can go either way with this character. And Aaron Paul has actually very much matured a little bit as an actor. I think it could be done really well.
Have you seen Need for Speed?
Yes, I have.
But I love what you're saying, that you want Rick to essentially be what we wanted Elon Sleaze Pagano to be in the Kenobi show of, he went from selling death sticks to getting his life back together. That's what you want Rick to be in Dead Reckoning Part 1.
do. I want Rick to come back, and even just helping Julia out. I don't know. I think he could have a key moment to play. Not a big dramatic moment, not a big action moment, but like something key that we just don't know about yet.
Give him the Julia moment from Fallout.
There you go.
Not in it a lot, but a key moment that helps the plot.
Absolutely. I want to see it. Either that or, the Hammer from Top Gun Maverick. So.
Enough about the
I spent all these years in the Navy, but it said right at the end of my career, I'm going to switch to the IMF.
To IMF, absolutely. Come on, you saw it.
There's a fucking career path if I haven't heard it. All right. Kearnsy, thank you for joining us, man. It's been a lot of fun. I like to think, we had a really good conversation, the three of us, about this movie. And when PLD told me that you wanted to come on because this is like me and him, this is your favorite movie in the franchise, I was like, first I was like, duh, of course we gotta have Guns Gun. But then when he said that is your favorite in the franchise, I'm like, perfect. This is just gonna be the three of us talking shit about our favorite movie of this whole franchise. So I'm really glad you came on. You are welcome to, as I said, seasonal co-host. If you want to come on again for another one, by all means, just send us a message. I'm more than happy to have you on. That being said, tell the good people where they can find you.
You guys can find me at Kearns_Matthew on Twitter. 2 places on YouTube, Matt Movies 611. That's kind of my dumping ground where I do a lot of different stuff. And then I work with the YouTube channel Take 3 Productions, where I host a few shows, a video essay series called Second Look, where I take a movie that I love that I think is either overhated or under talked about, and I kind of explain the reasons why you should give it a second viewing. Films I've talked about have been Dick Tracy, Willow, and I've also talked about stuff like Moneyball. I have an episode in the works on Speed Racer from 2008.
Nice.
Then I also host a show called The Fandom Podcast, which is where me and a guest, we sit down, we talk about one topic and all the facets of why we love that topic. I've done episodes on Superman, on Firefly and Serenity, and on animation, as well as comic book movies just in general. And then finally, quite possibly my favorite thing I do, which is the semi-weekly live stream podcast, Simple Tricks and Nonsense, with my co-host, Abe Flores, where we sit on StreamYard for like 2-3 hours, and we just kind of go with the flow. We do get into discussions about movies and things like that. We've started recently doing tier lists. This week, whenever we do it, we're going to be doing tier list Spider-Man, but we don't do tier lists like anyone else. And also, if you stick around for the whole stream, you'll see stuff like last week's episode, me and Abe just danced to Mexican radio just because. That's what but the best part of it is that because we didn't want to get copyrighted, we listened to the song and viewers just had to watch us dance.
It was like a silent disco kind of a deal.
But yeah, and you can also find me in the comments of PLD videos.
Can I make a request that you do a video on the movie Equilibrium just to piss this guy off?
So it'd be hard for me to defend a movie I've never seen.
I think you'd find a way, because we did an episode of Class Action where we did Equilibrium versus V for Vendetta. This guy was not happy.
He made me very angry.
Man of 1,000 streams. Where can people find you?
At Paul_Denuzio on Twitter. You can find me all over PLD projects. Like I mentioned before, 2 mediocre white dudes on film. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade came out this week. In 2 weeks, we'll be doing Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And then finally, probably, I don't know if we're going to do it live or not, but we're going to do a movie on Dial of Destiny, which is going to come up, of course. Also got Declassified. We've been working around with Matty, of course, and Holy Snokes with Matty. Holy Snokes, a Star Wars story. Lots to talk about. Well, it's already up now because we're recording this on Tuesday. It's airing on Saturday, but Holy Snokes is on Wednesday. So it's all that kind of like Back to the Future type stuff. We had a great episode on Holy Snokes on Wednesday. I'll tell you, it was so fun. I can't even remember it right now, but it was such a great episode.
I like the Tom Cruise intensity of that. I really like it. It was so great. Possibly the greatest episode we've
possibly the greatest episode of Holy Snokes of all time. And of course, Crown Jewels, I do my journey through Queen as well. And the aforementioned Harris Dons is in the works soon. It's actually on the doorstep. We're starting the Harris Dons podcast.
It's like the dragons in Game of Thrones. They're on their way.
They are
on there. It's going to be great.
Exactly.
They'll arrive exactly when they mean to.
And I think that's it. My friend.
Cool. You guys can find me on Twitter at Matty Gunner, Instagram Matty_Gunner. You can find my band Mourner, Mourner, on all DSPs. Brand new song coming soon. It's currently being mastered. I will announce that very soon. You can find me on Holy Snokes, as Paul said, every Wednesday. You can find us there talking Star Wars. As I said, great episode this week. A lot to talk about. I'm sure we're going to have some opinions that you guys are going to want to hear. And of course, MID Classified every week up until the release of Dead Reckoning. As we said, if you are new here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you know when you get new videos and live streams. Class Action kind of off the network for a little bit. Hopefully it'll be coming back soon whenever Jarvis is ready. Jarvis, love you, miss you. yeah, unless you guys have anything else.
I do want to pitch one more thing. First of all, I also do review. My V podcast is coming out this week as well. V the
Man of
Final
1,000
Battle.
streams, like I said.
We're going to review the final battle. We did part 1 last week. This week's part 2, then part 3. Then we'll get into the weekly series. But also, if you do like this channel and you like this podcast, besides the like, you can also join patreon.com/PLD projects.
Yes.
Which is, we got Austin Cattell, Jeremiah Morris, the aforementioned lovely Matty Kearns, Brady Buckingham, Jeff Alterman, Kelly W. I really could not do this without all of you. Thank you so much. Appreciate your support. Helps keep the light on, helps us making more great content like this. So, yeah, that's it. Matty, bring us home.
With that being said, we are officially disavowed.